violent periods in the Middle East conflict. The violence which has resulted in the deaths of dozens of Palestinians and also left thousands of others injured. It's quite frankly an appalling situation. And the number of deaths shows there's a need for urgent international intervention. As already has been stated, the 70th anniversary of the birth of the State of Israel, which Palestinians refer to as Nakba, meaning catastrophe, coupled with the ill-judged decision of the US to move their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, has resulted in a significant increase in deadly violence and tension in the region. And we have the US President and the Israeli Prime Minister telling us it's a great day for them and it's a great day for the world. Extraordinary statements from people who clearly have blood on their hands. The United States, of course, once the great brokers of peace in this conflict, have now only exacerbated it. And now the difficulty is we can't and they cannot be negotiators of peace. In addition, the disproportionate use of force by Israeli forces is only serving to compound the situation. And as a party, we fully support the calls for an independent investigation into those incidents. At this juncture, peace seems to be an aspiration that is unlikely to be fulfilled, and the situation is becoming increasingly untenable. It is therefore imperative that the Irish Government, the EU and the international community redouble their efforts to restart this peace process. Fianna Fáil has always respected and celebrated the establishment and progress of the State of Israel. We have never questioned the right of the Israeli people to exercise their right to self-determination and self-defence. However, coupled with this, our party has long advocated and supported a two-state solution in the Middle East, although I do now acknowledge, because of the crossroads we're at, that may be difficult to achieve. We in government led Ireland to become the first EU member state to declare that a solution to the conflict in the Middle East had to be based on a fully sovereign state of Palestine, independent and coexisting with Israel. As a party, we are deeply frustrated about the lack of progress in advancing peace talks. The continued expansion of Israeli settlements on Palestinian lands, which are illegal under international law, and the deterioration in humanitarian and economic situation in Gaza and the West Bank. This simply cannot be allowed to continue. Ireland has a long interest in the challenges in the Middle East and always has acted out of experience of our own troubled history and out of our overriding respect for and belief in human rights for all people across the world. Successive ministers for foreign affairs of all governments have consistently spoken out in favour of a peaceful, equitable and a fair and lasting settlement in the Middle East. We have to be deeply concerned here about the plight of not alone men and women and children, and the way children have been killed, brutally killed in this situation. And again, it is in everybody's interest to in some way try and bring this terrible conflict to an end. While recent years have seen a focus on the Syrian war and refugee crisis, the Palestinian refugee crisis is one of the biggest lasting cases of forced migration in modern history. Today there are millions of Palestinians living in exile from homes and lands their families had inhabited for generations. They are without a state. Many still suffer the legacy of their dispossession, destitution and insecurity. Human rights violations, including house demolitions, land confiscation, forced displacement, restrictions of movement and violence against civilians occur on a regular basis. Approximately 70% of Gaza's 1.9 million people rely on humanitarian assistance. The blockade on land, air and sea imposed by Israel following the Hamas takeover of the Gaza Strip in 2007, and which is exacerbated by Egypt keeping its own border with Gaza, largely sealed, continues to have a devastating effect as access to markets and people's movement to and from the Gaza Strip remain severely restricted. This is a deep, deep crisis now, and I urge the government to do everything they can to try and at least stop this terrible violence which is causing absolute outrage and indeed such devastation to the Palestinian people.